It's TK Friday. Today on The Joy of Editing, it's a layer mask calculator deep dive. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly and welcome to TK Friday. This week it's a layer mask calculator deep dive. Now you're going to find the layer mask calculator in the combo or the CX panel. Now don't mistake that for the mask calculator found in the multi-mask panel that I went over a couple of weeks ago. You find it right here. They're both mask calculators and they both do the same thing, but the workflow is different. So we're going to go over the layer mask calculator this time. Do we really need two mask calculators? If they did the same thing the same way, maybe not, but they don't. The multi-mask calculator is more interactive and exploratory, inviting you to fine-tune in real time. The layer mask calculator is more direct, still interactive, but driven by upfront inputs. Same power, different paths, and that means more choice for how we edit. By the way, I have PDF notes for you going over everything I'll be going over today in this deep dive into the layer mask calculator. I have two images for you. The first image is from Keith Simpson. The second image is from James May. These are images that I've edited on past TK Fridays. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can find the full edit videos for those two images. To download the images and the PDF notes, just go to the description of this video, click more, scroll down through, and you will find them. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I'll have a link in the description below this video, and that'll take you over to the TK web store where you can pick up the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. Now, over there, you're going to find a bunch of free panels, which I highly recommend. The TK gradients, great stuff, linear profiles, a bunch of courses from Sean Bagshaw, which I highly recommend. And also the TK Magic Mixer plugin. It's only $10 if you're into black and white conversions. You're going to love it. And if you're into working with color, you're going to love that as well because it works for both making black and white conversions as well as working on color. And I do have a promo code which is DK15, which will save you 15% off your entire purchase over at the TK web store. And when you use my promo code DK15, I make a small commission, and this helps to support my channel. So thank you for using my promo code. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. A couple of weeks back when I did the mask calculator deep dive, I showed you some basics. And what I want to do in this video is start off the same way by showing you the basics and how powerful this layer mask calculator is. Well, let me go ahead and set this up to show you the basics. What I want to do is come to the multi-mask panel. We could click any adjustment here. I'm just going to click on the curves adjustment, and you'll notice we have a curves adjustment layer. There's no adjustment on it. We have a white reveal all mask. What I'll do is come to the Combo CX panel, click this button. This puts a black hide all mask on there. And then what I want you to do is click this double arrow button, and we can see there is that black mask. Grab a marquee tool, and what I want you to do is just make a marquee selection on that mask. Just like that. Now, here's where the layer mask calculator comes in. Where do we find the layer mask calculator? Well, you're going to find it on the combo panel right here or on the CX panel right here. Both of these panels are the same, but they're just in different layouts. So I'm going to click this button. This opens up the layer mask calculator. Now we can add, subtract, intersect, apply, load a channel as a selection, and then we have the trash can. The trash can is interesting. If you click on active selection and click the trash can, it'll deselect the selection. If you click on any one of the channels and click the trash can, it will delete that channel. Now remember, I made this marquee selection and I'm showing you how this mask calculator works. So let's click on active selection. Let's apply it to that curves adjustment layer by clicking this button. And you note the layer mask has changed. Now let's click this double arrow button because now we can really see the mask. The white area on the inside of the mask is the area that I applied from that marquee selection. So now you see how to apply a selection to a layer mask. Now, let's subtract from this mask. Now, remember on a layer mask, white reveals, black conceals, so the black area is concealing. So let's take out a piece of this white area. Let's use that marquee tool And let's make a selection right like this. See, we've selected this area. I want to subtract this from the white area, which is revealing. We need our layer mask calculator, so click on the layer mask calculator, click on active selection. This is an active selection. And then we want to subtract, so we'll click the minus button. And now you can see the change to our layer mask. Now again, let's click the double arrow button so we can really see it. We can still see the marching ants, so we can go ahead and click this button to deselect the selection. Okay, so we've subtracted out that marquee selection area that I just made. Isn't that cool? You can really see here what's happening. Now just let me say, this mask I'm creating is a nonsense mask. I'm just using it to teach you the basics of this layer mask calculator, how to add, subtract, intersect, and apply. So far we learned how to apply and subtract, and now we're going to learn how to add. Now you can use any type of selection tool here. I'm just using the marquee tool. Let's say I want to add back to this area right in here that I just subtracted out. So let's do this. Let's make another marquee like this. There it is. See that selection? So come back to the layer mask calculator, click on it. This time we want to add, so click the plus, and I made a mistake. And I'm going to leave this in the video because I do this all the time. I forget to click active selection or sky or foreground, whichever you want. In this case, active selection, I forgot to click it. And you're going to get a message up here, no channel mask chosen, and it tells you what to do. I'm just going to click OK. It's just telling me to click a channel or an active selection, so I'll click active selection. I want to add that to the mask, so I'll click plus, and now you can see how the mask has changed. And note, I still have that selection. You can see by the selection indicators and by the marching ants. I'll just click the deselect button. I don't need that selection now. Now let's look at our mask. I'm going to click this double arrow again, and now you can see there's that area I added in, and now we have the big letter H here. But now let's do something a little bit different. So far we've applied, we've added, we subtracted, and now let's intersect. Now if we come to our multi-mask panel, I want to intersect some sort of a mask that I create here, either luminosity, zone, blend diff mask, or a color mask, saturation vibrance mask. Let's click on luminosity mask. And it defaults at lights 1. You can go to lights 2, lights 3, whatever you want. I'm going to go to darks 1. Now I want to intersect this into this layer mask. How can I do it? All you need to do is come to the output section of the multi-mask panel and click this button right here. This will load that mask as a selection. And this selection indicator denotes I do have a selection, so come and click on the layer mask calculator again on the Converse CX panel. It's an active selection. Don't forget, click active selection, and now I want to intersect it into that mask. So we'll click the X. And now you can see we've intersected lights 1 into that mask. Isn't that cool? Again, these are just the basics that I'm showing you here, how to apply, how to add, how to subtract, and how to intersect. Now, if we click on this double arrow again, and now you can see that that darks 1 mask has been intersected inside of the area that used to be white. The black area remains black because it's hiding everything. But that's the power of the layer mask calculator. Again, I only created this mask so you could clearly understand how the layer mask calculator works. Coming up next is part 2, and I'll show you some practical examples of how to take advantage of the layer mask calculator in the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. So don't go away, stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. Welcome to part 2, and I'm using this image by Keith Simpson. Now, I just have a few edits on here, just an opening balance and contrast adjustment. And now I'm going to show you some examples using the layer mask calculator. By the way, you'll find all of these examples in the PDF notes. For this first example, I want to darken the shadows in the foreground. And to do that, I will come to the Converse CX panel, hold down your Shift key, and click on the Multiply button. This will give you a Multiply brush layer. It's basically a curves adjustment layer in the Multiply darkening blend mode, because remember, I want to darken shadows and a black hide all mask. Now what we need to do is create a mask that will really target the foreground shadows. So let's come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button. Let's find a darks that'll really work. Here's darks 1, here's darks 2, here's darks 3, and I think that's the range I want, darks 3. But we're also selecting parts of the sky, which I don't want. But let's not worry about that right now. To remove the sky from this mask, I could use the mask calculator here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going instead to click this button right here. And when I do, I apply that Darks 3 mask to this layer. Now, let me click the double arrow button just so you can see the mask. And you can see in this mask that I've selected parts of this sky. Let's get rid of them. So let's come back to the layer mask calculator and click on sky. And let's get rid of it by clicking minus to subtract it. Now, let's take a look at the mask. Click the double arrow button. And now we can see that that sky has been subtracted. Click this button again to go back to the image. Now, let me shut off this layer. Here is before. And now here is after, and I've darkened up the shadows in the foreground. And it's probably too dark, so what I want to do is take my layer opacity the whole way off, and I'll build it up slowly and stop where I think it looks good. And I think it looks good right there at 35%. Let me shut it off. Here's before, here's after. But you know what? It's darkening up this cowl too much, so let's fix that. By the way, in this image, I did save out a sky and a foreground as channels for you. And on the other image I'll be working on, I saved out a subject and background just to save you a little bit of time. Now, I don't want this cowl in my adjustments, so I can subtract it. Now, I don't have a channel mask already saved out for it. So come to the Combo or CX panel and click this button right here. Photoshop will select your subject. And as you can see there, that cowl has been selected. And now you can see the marching ants. I'm just going to click this button on the combo panel to hide those ants so we don't have to see them. And now let's click on the layer mask calculator button. Click active selection, which is the cowl. I'll click the minus button to subtract out that cowl. And now let's look at that layer mask. Let me click this double arrow button. See, the cowl has been subtracted out. Isn't that cool? This is what I really love the layer mask calculator for doing stuff like this. You've created a really nice mask using the multi-mask panel, maybe even use the mask calculator up there, but you forgot to take the cowl out. Well, you can do it now with the layer mask calculator. It's really great for this type of thing, like removing something you forgot to remove. And now let's click the double arrow button again. And now let's shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. So I've darkened up the shadows in the foreground, but I did not darken up the cowl. And now for my second example, I want to lighten this cowl, but only the midtones. I want to target midtones. Here's what I'll do. Hold down your shift key and click on the SCR button. We're going to get a curves adjustment layer in the screen lightening blend mode with a black hide all mask. And the layer is called screen brush. Because it's a screen brush, you could just paint on the image and it'll lighten certain parts of the image if you paint on it. But I don't want to do that. I want to make a layer mask that targets the cowl only. Plus, I want to restrict it to midtones. So come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button, and we have midtones 1, we have midtones 2. They're all midtones. They get stronger as they go. I'm going to go to midtones 3. There's midtones 3. Now, I want to output it to that screen brush layer, so we'll click this button. And now you can see there's that midtones 3 mask on this screen brush layer. Now I want the cowl. It's the subject. So come to the Combo CX panel, click this button to select the subject. You can see by the marching ants, we have selected the subject. Now let's go ahead and hide our selection. The selection will still be there. We just won't see the marching ants. I just click this button right here. Now we need that layer mask calculator. So click on the layer mask calculator. I have an active selection and that's what I want. So click on active selection. And now how am I going to get this active selection into this midtones 3 mask? To do that, click the X to intersect it. Let's get a close look at that mask. Click the double arrow button on the Combo CX panel, and now we can see that mask. We have that selection intersected with that mids 3 mask. Let's go back to the image view. I'll click the double arrow button, and now we see the image. Let me show off this layer. Here's before, and now here's after. Now the cowl is way too light, so just come to the layer opacity, drag it the whole way off, and then drag it slowly to the right and stop where you think it looks the best. And I think it looks the best right here at 55%. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. We were able to select the cowl, intersect that mids 3 mask, all with the help of the layer mask calculator. And I really like the result. So the layer mask calculator, it's a great tool. Now let's move on to example 3. For example 3, I want to lighten up the light tones in the foreground only. Now, right now I have a selection. I need to deselect this selection, so I'll click this button on the Combo or CX panel. That deselects your selection. And what I want to use is a brightness contrast adjustment. So on the multi-mask panel, we'll click this button. And you can see we have a brightness contrast adjustment layer. And next, come to the COM 6 panel, click on the Layer Mask Calculator button. We want the foreground, so click on Foreground and click this button to apply it. And now you can see we have selected the foreground. Now, I only want to lighten the light tones, so come up to the Multi-Mask panel, click on the Luminosity Mask button. Right now we're in Lights 1, but we could try these different color channels. Here's red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow. When I get to yellow, it really lightens up those areas. So that's what I want to use. I need to intersect this into the foreground mask that I've already created. So come to the output section of the multi-mask panel, click this button. It'll load that mask as a selection. And note that we have a selection indicator showing us that we do have a selection. On the COM 6 panel, click on the Layer Mask Calculator button, click Active Selection. And now we want to intersect it into that foreground mask. So click the X. And now you can see on this layer mask, we have the Lights 1 mask intersected with the foreground. Now let's adjust the brightness contrast adjustment. I'll take the brightness slider, we'll move it to the right, and I'll take it to right here, 52. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. But I have a couple issues here. This back mountain's getting too light, and my cow is getting too light. Again, I'll shut it off. Here's before and here's after. So let's take care of that. And we can use the Layer Mask Calculator to do it. Let's go ahead and take the cow out of the adjustment first. So come over to the combo panel, click this button to select subject, which will be the cow. You can see by the marching ants. Let's go ahead and click this button to hide the marching ants. Now we'll click on the Layer Mask Calculator. And what do you think we're going to do? We want to remove it, right? So if you're thinking, click minus, Dave. Yes, click minus. But before you do, and I almost made a mistake again, click active selection. Don't forget to do that. I do that all the time. Now click minus to subtract out the cow. And now the cow is gone. If you click the double arrow button, you can see it's gone. And now I have to get rid of this mountain back here. It's too light, so I want to take that out of the adjustment. I need to select this mountain. I'm going to use the object selection tool, so I'll click on the object selection tool. I'm in the rectangle mode, sample all layers and hard edge unchecked. So I'm just going to click right here and drag a rectangle over to here. And that selects that. Hold your shift key down. I didn't get this area right here, so I'm going to hold the shift and drag a rectangle right here, and that adds that to the selection. I don't want to see these marching ants, so I'll click this button on the COM 6 panel to hide the marching ants. Click on the Layer Mask Calculator again. Click on Active Selection, and again, I don't want it in my mask, so we'll click minus to subtract it. And now, let's click this double arrow button. And this button is good if you really want to look at your mask and see what you got. But you'll notice back here, you can see some of the clouds in the sky showing through in this mask, and I don't want that. So I could take care of that right here while I'm in this mask view. What I can do is click on my black brush. Make sure your brush opacity is at 100%. Mine's at 60. I'll type my 0 key. That gets me to 100% opacity. And now with a nice soft edge brush about this size, I want to paint this off. But right now, if I try to paint this off, it won't come off. You see that? Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. If we look at my multi-mask panel, I have a selection indicator. And do you remember I hid those marching ants? This selection indicator is telling me you still have a selection, Dave. So I need to deselect this. So what I'll do is I'll click this button to deselect. And now, no problem, I can just paint that off. I'll make my brush a little smaller as I get over in here and just paint this all off in here. And this way, this will go out of the selection so we can refine right here in this mask view. All right. And that's all we need to do. And then just click the double arrow again and we're back to the image. And now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here is after. We're lighting up the light tones in the foreground, but we're not getting the cow or the distant mountain, all thanks to the Layer Mask Calculator. I have one more example to show you. This image is by James May, and I did do a full edit on this image on a past TK Friday. You can find it on my YouTube channel. What I want to do on this image is lighten up the elephants in this foreground grassy area right here, all with one adjustment. This time I'll start out with the Layer Mask Calculator. We'll click on the Layer Mask Calculator button. Now, I already have the subject and background saved out for you in channels when you download the image. So, click on Subject. Click this button to turn it into a selection. And you can see by the selection indicator, I do have a selection, although the marching ants are hidden. And now I want to apply this to a curves adjustment layer. So I'm going to click this button right here. And when I do, you can see there is my subject right there. Now, as I said, I also want to select this grass in this area here. And to do that, I'm going to use the Photoshop selection brush. So I'm going to click right here and open up my different selection tools and click on the selection brush. You could also use the TK selection brush. I'm using the Photoshop brush because I realize not everyone may have the free TK selection brush. It is free and you can pick it up over at Tony Kuiper's web store. But I know everybody will have the Photoshop selection brush. And now with a nice soft edge brush at 100% opacity, I'm just going to paint on this grass. I don't have to be that concerned about where the grass meets the background because you know what? This brush is nice and feathered. So it's going to blend right in rather nicely. So something like that should do the trick. Now, if you'll notice, we do have a selection. You can tell by my selection indicator. We don't see marching ants. Photoshop hides those when you're using the Photoshop selection brush. But we have this overlay here. I want to get rid of this overlay. So what I'm going to do is you can just click on any tool. You can type B to get the brush tool, or you could click this button on the TK9 combo panel, or really any tool. And now our marching ants magically appear. And now I want to hide that selection. And to do so on the Combo CX panel, click this button. That hides your selection. And now click on the Layer Mask Calculator button on the Combo CX panel and click Active Selection. And we want to add that selection to the original selection of the subject, so we're going to click the plus. And now if I click the double arrow button, you can see it's been added in. I'll click the double arrow again to get back to the image. Now, I want to lighten up the elephants and the grass that I've selected, but I want to stick to the darker tones in here because the elephants are really dark and some of the grass in here is dark, and I just want to lighten it up a bit. So come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button. Right now we're in lights 1. Let me click on darks 1. Okay, darks 1. I think that's going to be good. I want to intersect this darks 1 mask into this layer mask here with the elephants and the grass. I'm going to output this as a selection, so we'll click this button, and you can see by the selection indicator I do have a selection, although the marching ants are hidden for us. And now, click on the Layer Mask Calculator, click on Active Selection. I want to intersect, so click the X. On this curves layer, if I click the double arrow button, you can see there is my mask. Pretty cool, wouldn't you say? Click this button again, and now what I need to do is make the elephants and the grass lighter. I'll start by lightening up my highlights. So I'll click on this handle and I'll drag it into the left over to right there. And now I want to darken up my shadows. I'm going to click right here and drag down to right there. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. So I like that. But I would like to tone down the saturation in the grass, but not on the elephants. I like the extra saturation I'm getting on the elephants, so here's what I'll do. I have a selection. I'm going to go ahead and deselect it by clicking this button on the combo panel, or you could do it on the CX. I want to add a hue saturation adjustment layer above here. So we'll click this button on the multi-mask panel. That adds a hue saturation adjustment layer. And then I want to clip it to the layer below. Click on this paper clip button. That clips it. So now note, when I take the saturation and drag it to the left, it's only targeting the area that is covered by this mask. Nothing's happening to the background. But I don't want to reduce saturation on the elephant, so here's what we'll do. First off, let me go ahead and pull back on the saturation, and I think I want to go back to like right here. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. I like the way the grass is looking now, but I want the saturation to come back on the elephants, so here's what I can do. Click on the Layer Mask Calculator button, click Subject, and then click minus to subtract out the subject. And now let me shut off this hue saturation adjustment layer. Here's before and here's after. See, it's only affecting the grass. Pretty cool. And now let's see our overall change we made. I'm going to go to this layer, the curves adjustment layer. I'll shut it off. This is before and this is after. Well, there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to an end. I hope you really enjoyed today's Layer Mask Calculator deep dive. It's such a powerful tool. Hey, if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click the bell notification icon, click all so that you receive all notifications, and then every time I upload a new tutorial, You'll get notified about it. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.